Oh, welcome everybody. This is Chris Dew, and I want to welcome you to eOne Solutions Office Hours. Normally you might be expecting Ethan, but you get me today because he's on holiday. And I used to do these, I don't know, quite a few years ago now. It's been a couple years since I've done it, but I did it for several years prior to that. So it's good to be back with you guys today. All right, if we jump right into this, if we just look at a quick agenda, we're just going to kind of, besides the introduction that we've done, we're going to talk about a special topic today, and we'll get into any of the questions that you guys have. So if you want to answer them or ask them at any time in the questions section, that'd be great. If we can get to them a little bit later, and then we'll, just talk about some of the other resources you have available to you. Okay, so here's today's topic. It is on Popdock. And we're going to be talking specifically about widgets, and even more specifically, how we can use maybe a little known group in there, or a little known widget type in there called a widget group. Now, there's a couple different ways that this can be utilized to display data, again, and the data can come from a number of different places, but we can just choose to display data more in a horizontal manner. And again, we're probably primarily talking about a grid layout, right, where you have multiple records that you're pulling with multiple columns and showing that. So that's the primary, I guess, if we're doing like a horizontal layout. If you choose more of a vertical layout, or a lot of times people call it a sidebar, this is where you're going for saying, hey, maybe I'm only showing one record of information, or I maybe have a very small area to display this information, and so I need to display it in a vertical manner instead of across. And I'll give you some real life examples of how we do these things. So let's go ahead and we're going to dig right in and look and see what we have. Okay, let me just skip my other screen. So if we go inside of Popdock, and I have a widget that I've called the horizontal. So we're going to start with the horizontal layout of this. And what I was talking about, the type, right? We have some of these other types of widgets inside of here, but we're focusing on this one called a widget group today. And at its core, what is a widget group? It basically just allows us to group multiple widgets together so that we can say, hey, I not only want to display this information from this one list, there's maybe a couple of related lists, or maybe even they might even not be coming from the same place, right? It could be potentially coming from several different systems, and just kind of bringing all that information to one area. But once we choose a widget group, we get some different options than some of the other widgets, because it's basically asking us to add other widgets to this. And so you'll see I had created a couple of widgets. One is a search widget that allows me to search for records. And then this one is just pulling a list of some data that I have. So we'll look at a couple of other options inside of here. This is what's kind of important. We can choose, if we wanted to shrink down one of those sections. So maybe if we've seen a few times where people have stacked 3 or 4 widgets together, and they may want to say, hey, that one is not really that important right now, and so we don't need to see that. Okay. And then we'll come back to this option here on displaying the widget as a sidebar. So if we go ahead and look at this right now, we can see that we have all the codes that we need inside of here. And so I think I already have this one right here. And so if we pull this up, you can see that there's 2 components to this one widget, right? This top is the search part that we talked about, and the bottom is the second widget, which is pulling some just one list, and it's pulling either my favorite or everything in that list. So if we look at the search widget inside of here, you can see that I just typed in Hansen, and if I do that, it's going to go find all of the records, and I think this is pointing at some CRM data, or it might be Zendesk even, I'm not sure. But you can see it's going to pull all of the records that match that criteria. And one cool thing, you can see I can even drill back on this if I so chose, and we could see what this, I guess what, maybe there's some more details on that record and whatever the system is pointing at. So that's that top part of the widget. Again, you can even have advanced, like on a search widget, you can have more advanced type search types, or again, just more simplified like we have here. Now in this bottom section, right, we didn't have very many options on here, where we may not have, on this widget, we don't have options to show the search bar on it, or favorites, or exporting to Excel. So that's why this one seems so thin. But if we had chosen those options on this widget, we'd see tick, 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 tick. We'd see more of those things on here as well. So this is that horizontal type widget. Okay, now we're going to get into the more vertical type widget and what you can do with that. So let me go back and we'll take a peek at the one I've created for this. And if we look at this one, we're going to do a couple of, well, okay, before I get into here, this is, I talked about it before, but you'll see we've checked this box, display widget as sidebar, which is what is going to set it up to be more of a vertical representation. We're still adding widgets much the same way. There are a few restrictions that it won't allow you to add. It won't allow you to add a grid widget, right? So those, like a single list or multiple list, that just isn't an option to add those inside of here, because we're looking at more of a smaller space to display that information. But you can see, again, I've added 3 different widgets. One is that same search widget I had showed you in the horizontal layout, but I now have added two other widgets. One is a card widget, which allows me to pull multiple records. So again, think of like a sales order and like seeing all of the lines on a sales order, or again, maybe multiple sales orders for a customer, or lots of scenarios like that. And then this single record is actually, it's kind of a unique widget, right? It's only going to return one record, right? So you basically are pointing it at a specific customer, for example, and pulling back just a few fields on that customer, and again, pulling it in a vertical representation. Now, one other thing you can see I've added to this is I've added tabs. So you can add new tabs, and we can actually display this in a pretty cool way, where in this case, I've added 3 tabs, and I've just added each of these to one of those tabs. You can have, again, an icon for that tab, and then you can actually have a name and choose whether you want to display that name or not. So in this case, what I wanted to show you is that if we go ahead and pull this up, I've done one other little thing. I didn't talk about it much, but I have a parameter on that the single widget that is basically passing in an account number. So let me go to this first tab. You can see right now it's pulling in stuff for Dora Langworth, right? Customer 84 in this case. Let's just change it to customer 83. Now it's pulling, you can see it's going to pull up different information, right? And we have less information on this, but we can see it's now Salvador. And so this is what's pretty cool, is that you can filter this down and get different information on these widgets. Now, you can see we have these tabs, right? These 3 tabs across the top. That's cool, but again, remember I said this is like a sidebar, so oftentimes this is something that gets sorted in a much smaller way. So I'm gonna just shrink down my browser here for a second, and you can actually see that, just get maybe a little more of a visual on what you might be expecting, because if I switch tabs now, right now it's gonna pull, in this case, gonna pull some multiple records inside of here. So these are those card widgets. Again, we can do things like drill back on this to go back to the other system and see some information. And again, that search widget now is just inside of this little tab instead of the full width of the screen. And then again, just going on this one, right, you can see that this is just instead of laid out in a card, it's just kind of single fields. So you can see that this can be really useful when you start embedding these widgets in other systems, that this is something that I think provides a lot of value for people to display the data that they need all in one place. And I'd like to give you a real world example of how this is being used. We have an app that sits inside of Zendesk, and this app is connecting to Dynamics CRM data, Dynamics 365 customer engagement data. And so what's really cool about it is it reads some of the information in here, right? It's reading the email of the person, and it's going out and looking at what contact they're associated with inside of the CRM system, or what account, or other types of things that are inside of there. And so I'm actually going to pull up, I have a favorite one in here that has all the information I need. Let's see. If we look at this particular customer, you can see this is kind of that sidebar, right? This is the vertical. And so it's pulling contact information live from my CRM system. Again, we have that drill back, so I could drill back to CRM if I wanted. But you can also see I have some additional things inside of here, right? There's some additional actions I could do, right? If I wanted to update the CRM contact right from here, I could do that. If I wanted to see some additional details on this contact, right? I can maybe want to see some notes from CRM, or maybe their opportunities. I can click on that and see that. You can also see I've embedded a second widget in this tab that is pulling the account information. So instead of pulling just information on this one contact, I've went and found the account they're associated with as well. And we can now see some additional information, maybe custom fields or whatever. And I have actions where I could update the account. So right from another system, you can provide some pretty cool things where you can actually have some action to take action on that data that's coming back, and maybe even update stuff. Again, details where maybe I want to go see related contacts for that account, or notes or opportunities. So that's all in that first tab. If we look at the second tab, this has opportunities. So that's another area of CRM. It's pulling all of those things. Again, we might have different actions where I can update this opportunity, or again, look at existing notes that have been placed on that opportunity. And so there we go. There's a really clever note called "This is a note." Same kind of like search type bar inside of here, and you can even, in some cases, we can add a simple form inside of here that will call an action. It could be a smart connect action, or like a power or automate or something like that, where we could call that and push that information back in. But I just wanted to give you a real world example of how you might use one of these widget groups to put a bunch of related information. Again, wouldn't even have to be from the same system, right? You could be pulling in e-commerce orders from one system, and you could be pulling in, something from your ERP system, whether it be like Business Central or GP or other legacy systems or something like that. And we can pull in all the information into one place, so that your help desk people, like I'm showing you right now, or maybe it's your sales crew, is looking at it inside of CRM. We can pull that information that's needed. All right, Will, I hope that gets you just thinking a little bit about, maybe it's some way you did not know that you could use Popdock like you had in the past. And so hopefully this is something that is something interesting that again, you might tackle and try it out for yourself and see if you can do some pretty cool things. All right, well, I'll open it up for questions, see what we have for questions inside of here. Or again, if you want to get your question in, go ahead and type it in the questions area right now. Okay, I got one question saying, is there actions on every type of data? There isn't on every piece of data out of the box. There certainly are a few, like I showed you some Zendesk stuff. There certainly is actions on there, or CRM stuff. There's actions, and a host of other, the 50 some connectors that we have. But there are places where this is where Smart Connect fills in the gap really quite nicely, because we can call a Smart Connect app or map, I should say, or a process. And so we can pass in, that data and run that integration for one record at a time. And it can really give you a lot of power over what kind of process needs to run there. So, yep, good question. Okay, another question asking, can you put themes on these widgets? Yeah, we have a number of built-in themes today. So again, if you wanted to embed this inside of Business Central, for example, we can make it look and feel like Business Central when we do that, or if we're putting inside of a like Salesforce or NetSuite or GP, we can make it have the same look and feel of the system. So we have probably about 10 themes today, and we're looking at some customizations to that in our roadmap and in the next year. But yeah, you can basically make it look and feel like whatever system you're embedding those widgets in, so that it doesn't feel like a foreign place for your data. Okay, I don't have any other questions. So last call for questions. Um, I'll just go over the last couple slides, and if you do have any more questions, we'll get to them at the end. Okay, so I just want you to be aware that there is training for not only Smart Connect, as you can see here, but Popdock also has training that you can look on our site. Go to eonesolutions.com/events, and you can get signed up for the training there. Again, most of this is all online today, since there are really not classroom events going on at this moment in time, but there's been some really good successful training sessions that we've done in these boot camps. Okay, if you do have other topic suggestions, somebody did bring this one up, so thank you for whoever brought that up. But if you have some other topics or specific integrations that you'd like to talk about, please email officehours@eonesolutions.com, and we'd love to get that feedback so that we can present on what you'd like to hear. Just other resources, right? We have out in the support center, we have forum articles and blog articles and all the manuals and all those things, and you can even submit your help desk requests right out there. We do have a professional services team, right? If you need to, maybe you're over your capacity for delivering some projects, we have a great team of people with 20 plus years of experience in delivering these types of services around ERP and those kinds of things. And again, do love to hear the information that comes back from you on what you want to learn more about. That's kind of the goal of this, so please keep the feedback coming. Thank you. And then finally, I guess here's if you want to contact us, again, normally you'd have Ethan, but you have me today, and if you want to contact any of our teams, sales, renewals, support services, here is their contact information. So I don't have any other questions. I want to thank everybody for their time today, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.